Have you ever screamed so hard you lost your voice? Maybe at a concert, during a horror movie, or while stepping on a Lego in the dark. But what if, instead of just a moment of agony, you screamed nonstop for an entire year? Let's ignore the obvious questions like, why would you do that? Or who hurt you? And focus on what would actually happen, physically, socially, and globally, if one person screamed without pause for 365 consecutive days. First, let's define a scream. It's not just yelling. It's a high-intensity vocalization, usually around 80 to 100 decibels, sometimes higher. For comparison, 100 decibels is about the same as standing next to a jackhammer. So, congratulations. You've become a one-man construction site. Now, can a human actually scream continuously? Well, not really. The human vocal cords are made of delicate tissue. Even after a few hours of yelling at your Xbox, you might find yourself croaking like a frog. So, within the first few minutes of your year-long screamathon, your vocal cords would begin to swell. A few hours in, you'd likely rupture blood vessels in your throat. After 24 hours? Vocal cord hemorrhaging, blistering, and eventually, complete vocal failure. But remember, you're still screaming, because this is a thought experiment, and we're assuming your body is somehow able to continue the act. Maybe you're a science-enhanced screamer, or maybe you've sold your soul to the vocal endurance gods. Either way, let's keep going. Around day 3, you've already lost your job, your friends, your ability to be in any public place without causing a panic. Hospitals have probably banned you. You've become an involuntary siren. The neighbors have moved out. Small dogs bark every time you pass. Birds migrate to avoid you. By week 2, your diaphragm is shredded. You're probably on some kind of life support setup just to keep the scream going. You might also need intravenous fluids and feeding tubes, because screaming burns an absurd number of calories. Researchers estimate that opera singers can burn around 200 calories per hour. You, as the extreme metal version of that, are pushing closer to 400. That's about 10,000 calories a day just from yelling. You could eat everything in a McDonald's menu every single day and still lose weight. Congratulations, you've invented the worst diet plan in human history. Now let's talk sound pollution. If you're indoors, the walls won't help. At 100 plus decibels, your scream can penetrate walls and floors like an annoying supernatural force. Earplugs won't be enough. If you live in a city, your local government might classify you as a public hazard. If you live in a rural area, wildlife may start avoiding the entire region. You're now an ecological disturbance. Let's take it up a notch. Suppose your scream is amplified. Maybe it hits 130 decibels, the pain threshold for human ears. If you somehow maintain this intensity, you can start to affect structural materials. Extended exposure at this level can cause glass to vibrate and eventually crack. So not only are you hated by your neighbors, you're also literally shattering their windows. Around the 1-month mark, the government may have stepped in. Not because you're breaking laws, but because you're now classified as a weapon. Military research groups are interested. You're on watch lists. Noise ordinances don't know how to deal with you. Scientists invent new decibel categories just to explain what's happening. At 6 months, the mental toll becomes the real issue. Screaming for that long would likely lead to sensory isolation. You'd barely hear anything except yourself. Your body adapts by tuning out your own voice, possibly causing hallucinations. You begin to imagine entire orchestras playing alongside your scream. You befriend the scream. You become the scream. You stop screaming with your voice and start screaming with your soul. Now, could your scream travel the world? If you're outdoors and it's quiet enough, the sound might carry a few kilometers. But let's cheat and say you're in a desert with perfect acoustic conditions. People in the next town might hear your ghostly howling on the wind and assume the earth itself is groaning. If you're lucky, someone starts a cult around you. If you're unlucky, they try to silence you with a rock. Approaching the 1-year mark, you are no longer a person. You are a phenomenon. Your name becomes legend. Scientists debate whether you should be classified as a natural disaster or an art installation. Children grow up terrified of the idea that someone, somewhere could just start screaming forever. And then, on day 365, it stops. The silence is unbearable. For the first time in a year, the world hears itself again and doesn't like it. You've become the planet's most unforgettable ASMR channel. People report hearing phantom screams in the wind. Your house is declared a UNESCO heritage site. Your vocal cords, preserved in a soundproof museum, become a national treasure. A Netflix documentary follows. And you? You sleep for a week. You finally dream again. And somewhere, deep in your chest, a small whisper stirs. Season 2?